Hey, good morning. Yes, it is. It is Tuesday, the 29th of July. So, what we're going to talk about today? Talking about undercharging and when you know you're undercharging and when is the right time to raise your rate and how to raise your rate. So, stay tuned. Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eric. If you didn't already know it, yes, this is the weekday, Monday through Friday. Today is Tuesday, the 28th of July of 2025. So today we're talking about being too cheap. And when I say too cheap, I'm not saying you're a cheapskate. I'm saying that you're not charging enough. And case in point, you know, I talked about this I think 2 days ago of where the road calls are killing us. It's we're not making near what we should be. And I was talking to Claude about this because if we're in the shop, okay, as long as there's work there, you're getting regular hours. You're getting the equipment is right there. So if you need anything, specialty tools, you got it right there, right? But you're also physically there so that people can call you or stop in if they need something or have a question or trying to get their machine in. Because I can tell you right now is if you're not there and people call, they'll go on, they'll move on unless they're an old customer. And what I thought about doing was getting what I call a burner phone. And that's just a cheap track phone and listing that as a contact on the answer machine that they can call my cell and then carrying a business cell along with my personal cell. Because I don't like giving my personal cell out because then people feel like they can bother me on nights and weekends when I really don't want to get bothered. And I understand, people have breakdowns, and like I said the other day, majority of the people have their heads so far up their own whats that they don't care what's going on with you. So you have to have that ability when you leave work to leave work there and come home to your home life, and that's going to be different than your work life, or at least it should. If it's not, then you never stopped working, okay? And that can be a problem. And I can be the best test case there is I worked every waking hour. As long as I could keep going, I was doing something that revolved around work. And that was my passion. I didn't consider myself a workaholic yet. I was working 7 days a week. So I've tried to do what I used to do at the mines. I didn't want my family worried about me underground, this and that. But when I left home in the morning, I shut off home life because I didn't want anything going on in my home life to affect, maybe things were going on, but that would get me distracted at work. And all it takes is a split second when you're underground and things can go sideways in a hurry. And I did the same thing was when I got done with my shower at night at work, put on my street clothes, I turned the switch to put work there and I went back to my home life. And that's the way I did it for years. And now I've done it post-surgery with the business as well. At least I've tried to. But you're doing it too cheaply when people ask you how much when you say what the bill is for a service call. And we're charging them $60 just to show up. And then so much an hour while we're there. And yesterday we had 2 service calls. One was around 38 miles one direction. All right. We had to go out. The guy was having problems with an International 656. it wouldn't stay running. And we thought, well, because it's old school, but it's got new school carburetor on it with a fuel shut off and the solenoid. And there wasn't any fuel in the filter either. So we ended up taking out the fuel solenoid, electric solenoid, and there was like this white crud all over it, kind of like a waxy thing that you get when the fuel sits for some time. So we got it running, but it would run, instead of not running except for on carb cleaner, we got it so it would run for 6 or 7 minutes and then it would stall out again. So I told Claude, I said, the best bet here, cut our losses, take the carburetor off, take it back to the shop, we'll kit the carburetor. Because the old timer was talking about trying to find a used or good aftermarket on like YouTube on eBay or Facebook and the thing is, what I found is that whether you're talking small engine repair and the Chinese carburetors or the farm tractors with the Chinese carburetors that are coming directly from Chinese sellers, it's a hit or miss. It is. And we've had more misses than we've had hits. Enough so that it's starting to make me not really want to order one. It used to be the quick fix, right? But now you never know what you're going to get. And a lot of times we end up with POSs that do not work. And I think a lot of them are returns. They just keep pushing them out, hoping somebody will keep them and not file a complaint to get the money back. But I told both of them, Claude and William, look, let's take the carburetor off, take it back to the shop, tear it down, kit it, and bring it back and see what happens. And while we're here, let's drain the gas tank. And because the last time we were there, we told him, you have water in your fuel. You need to drain the fuel tank. So he did. And he filled it. And it ran great for that whole tank of fuel. He added more fuel, and that's when he started having problems. So we pretty much felt, okay, he's got a bad batch of fuel again. Where are you getting your fuel? But that was the other thing I mentioned when we took the carburetor is that tank needs to get drained. And I'll bring the 5 gallons of fuel. I know a place that I get my fuel is churning all the time. It's fresh fuel. Because a lot of your small mom and pops, and nothing wrong with them, but the tendency of pushing a lot of fuel through their systems in a week usually isn't happening, right? So they may have fuel that's been sitting there for a while. And you get these hot days and cool nights, it's still going to affect underground, right? And it's going to cause condensation. And rule 1 is you never fill up when there's another truck unloading fuel because it's stirring everything up there and it's going to end up in your tank. Second one is never fill your vehicle or your gas can with full throttle because what you're going to end up getting is a lot of gas, air gas, and not fuel into your tank. And the best time to fuel up is in the morning before it's had a chance to start to expand and create gas. So we took that off, and the service call was $60. And then another half hours later. So now you're talking right around $100 that to get there, take the carburetor off, and get it back to the shop. We dropped that off, and then we headed the other direction. And that was 27 miles, 28 miles the other direction. And the guy had a fuel leak on a Case IH tractor, compact tractor, and he couldn't find out where the leak was, and he wanted us to come take a look at it and see if we could fix it right there. Well, it ended up being one of his injectors. The pressure side was a little loose, so we tightened that up. And then one of the return hoses, which is under no pressure, was leaking in and around number one cylinder. So we cut the hose back because the hose was still good. It was just at the end. And put that back on, fixed the issue. And the guy said, "What do I owe you?" And I said, $60, because that's what we get for a service call. Because we weren't there 10 minutes, 5 minutes. And the guy says, "Wow, that's really cheap, you know." And this is what I've been telling Claude. You know, I'm thinking of taking a bump in our service calls to 100. There's nobody in this area that will do it for less than 100. And they're charging travel time. We aren't. Yes, I'm getting a service call of $60. But when you got a 2500 series Dodge that loves gas, it gets 13, 14 miles per gallon. It adds up at $3.39 a gallon, right? So that's the time to start raising it. Because the way I'm looking at it right now is, personally, I'd rather have us spending that time in the shop, because we do have work at the shop too that we're trying to do. And what we end up doing is, like, 1 or 2 days a week we do service calls, and the rest of the week we're in the shop. And the people in the shop are waiting for their stuff. And if we're not there, we can't answer the phone. We can't fix the stuff that's there. And if you're not charging for that hour to get there and back, that hour could have been spent working on something that was in the shop to get it closer and get paid all together, right? That's the way I'm looking at it. So we're talking about bumping it up, and we're not going to bump it up very fast, but the same thing goes with your hourly rate. You know, do a Google search, ask AI, what's the average rate going for in our area? And put your number wherever you want. But one of the gals that I used to go to for massage therapy, she did kind of something similar. But what she did was, every month she'd bump it up by another $10. And next thing you know, it's $80 for an hour. And not that what she was doing wasn't good, it was, but I just couldn't justify the $80 for an hour of trying to relax me, if that makes any sense. So it's going to be a short video today, but that's the way you bump things up, is when you start hearing your customers are quick to pay you and don't question you, and also when you start realizing you're not making as much as you think you are if you put it on paper. Figure out what your costs are. I mean, I'm still paying Claude an hourly rate, whether he's driving that truck to a job, driving it back, or when we're there working on it. And when we're there, there's two of us, not one, two of us that are doing work in the field. A lot of people think that, you know, you should be only charging $20 per hour per man. And that's asinine. I get more than that in the shop. And my customers don't even blink an eye. And these customers that we're going to do service calls, they're also not having a trucking fee involved. And on both of those pieces of equipment yesterday, if we hauled them back to the shop with a trailer, they're now looking at $100 pickup and drop off, $50 each way. So actually they're getting out of it cheaper than we picked it up. So get in the comments, give me your thoughts. So before I round this out today, I told you it's going to be short. I'm going to be taking some time off. Not a long time, 4 maybe a week. I'm thinking more like 3 days. But I've been really fatigued, tired, and I'm being told I need to just stop what I'm doing for a few days and just relax. I'm not sure I know how to do that. So this could be I'm going to take 3 days off, don't worry, and then I'm doing one in the morning. But I don't want you guys worried that something happened. I'm going to try doing what they said and take 3 or 4 days off and try to see if I can't get rid of some of this being so fatigued. And I have cardiac rehab today, so that should keep me stressed to the max, right? So on that note, you guys have a great Tuesday, and we'll catch you here just as soon as I can get through this retreat. On that note, you guys have a great day.